Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2022 webinar. There are lots of the animals that are domesticated, but allow me to focus about the domestication of cattle. Domestication of cattle has been particularly well documented, with clear evidence of three distinct initial domestication events for three distinct Aurochs subspecies. Domesticated in the Fertile Crescent around 8,000 years ago, possibly domesticated as early as 9,000 years ago in the northeastern part of African continent, and the ancestors of the hampless Taurus cattle of the Near East and Africa, respectively. Very few animal species have been successfully domesticated. Domestication was a complex and gradual process which altered the behavior and morphological characteristic of the ancestral animals. The circumstances and pressure that triggered the domestication of animals remain uncertain and may have varied from one geographic to another and from the species to another.
Miss Boko, can I ask a question?
Yes, Miss Fiona, what is it?
What is domestication in history?
Um, Actually, domestication is the process of hereditary reorganization of wild animals and plants into domestic and cultivated forms according to interest of people. In its strictest sense, it refers to the initial stage of human mastery of wild animal and plants.
Thank you so much.
Okay, did I answer your question? Any
Yes.
question from the others? Miss Danielle, you have a question? So we can proceed to another slide.
Okay, Miss, I have another question po. Uh,
Okay.
what is the first domesticated animal? What is the first
Um,
domesticated animal?
okay, thank you. Again, Miss Fiona. Um, to answer your question, based on the research of many archaeologists from here in the Philippines and also from the other countries, goats were probably the first animals to be domesticated, followed closely by sheep. So it's like they're almost similar. Did you have the same
Yes.
of their characteristics? That is why, and it is in the Southeast Asia, and also chicken were domesticated about 10,000 years ago. Later, people began domesticating larger animals such as oxen or horses for plowing and transportation.
Thank you so much, Miss Boko, for
Okay,
clarifying.
so the other slide. So domestic species are raised for food, for clothing, medicine, and many other uses. Domesticated plants and animals must be raised and cared for for by humans. So this is um, the picture of the subspecies or the in the early 18,000 years ago. So this is the Aurochs or the Bos primigenius. So the Aurochs is an instinct cattle species considered to be the wild ancestor of modern domestic cattle. So our modern domestic cattle today, it these Aurochs is the ancestor of our present cattle. So with a shoulder height of 180 centimeter in bulls and 155 centimeter in cows. It was one of the largest herbivores in the Holocene and had the massive, elongated, and broad horns that reached 80 centimeter in length. Um, did you understand about the Arocs? Any question about Arocs? If none, let's proceed to another slide. Hello? Hello, are you still listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any question, Miss Fiona? I think you're just the
Is it
one who is
okay to ask?
interested in this
Is it
topic.
okay to ask again another
Yes, it's
question?
okay.
How do you pronounce this Aerox? Is it Aerox?
Yes, it's
Aerox.
Aerox.
Okay, why did Aerox become extinct?
Yes, you know, Aerox finally became extinct early in the 17th century when poachers probably killed the last one in Europe. While there were reports of Aerox in the decades that followed, there was limited evidence in their validity. Cattle of the world fall into two classifications. Okay, next slide. So, domestication happens through selective breeding. Individuals that exhibit desirable traits are selected to be bred, and these desirable traits are then passed along to future generations. Wolves were the first animal to be domesticated, sometimes between 33,000 years ago and 11,000 years ago. This dispersal of domesticated animals, if the domestication process was the major initiating event in the development of today's livestock diversity, the subsequent dispersion and migration of domesticated species across all five continents was equally important. So, this is the Zebo cattle, where sometimes known in the plural as indecent cattle or bump cattle, is a species or subspecies of domestic cattle originating in the Indian subcontinent. Zebu are characterized by a fatty hump on their shoulders, a large julep, and sometimes drooping. So some will ask, is Zebu meat good? You know, this animal produces good quality meat. It is resistant to a large number of diseases. Its milk yield does not diminish in high temperature, and it can calve even hot weather. From Rusty Van, yes, let me read the my question is, what are the advantages of domesticated animals? So, animals that make good candidates for domestication typically share certain traits. They grow and mature quickly, making them efficient to farm. They breed easily in captivity and can undergo multiple periods of fertility in a single year. They eat plant-based diets which make them inexpensive to feed. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rusty Bantanya, for the question. Did I answer your question directly? I hope so. Okay. Any other questions among the other
None.
participants of this webinar? Yes. Again, Miss Fiona?
None. None. Okay ko na po.
Okay. So, livestock production constitutes a very important component of the agricultural economy of developing countries. Another question from Renzo. Yes, Renzo Lumbre. Let me read this question from Renzo Lumbre. Why was the domestication of livestock important to the development of civilization? Actually, the topic is not heavy focused on. Domestication of animals was just important as the domestication and farming of plants because the animals were needed to be able to work the land and were a more reliable source of food than the harvest that may not come. Okay, thank you. Did I answer your question, Mr. Lumbre? There's no is some other who had clarification or other violent reaction about the domestication of cattle, or some other who are not, who have questions? No more
I don't,
questions
I
or
don't have
other
anything.
clarifications? Okay,
Everything is
thank you for
everything is
the for allowing me to educate you about the domestication of cattle. So that's end our discussion. Thank you for your time.
bye, ma'am.
Thank you.